By the year 2025, Earth had been plagued by near-continuous flooding, uncontrollable wildfires, mass extinctions, and an inexplicable rise in disastrous earthquakes. In 2026, the UN decreed a global sanction against any further heavy industrial growth, as the impact of humanity's pollution reached critical levels. In 2033, China launched its first crewed mission to Mars, in conjunction with the Chinese New Year. Meanwhile, India, China, Europe, and the US each developed and expanded their own orbital stations. Megacorporations, fueled by shareholder greed, frantically funded research into cleaning waste plastic and other toxins from the Pacific Ocean for the sake of further economic growth, in a feat of amazing scientific progress. Or was it stunning overconfidence? A team of Canadian scientists bioengineered a deep-sea kraken with the ultimate goal of cleaning the seas of plastics, toxins, and a century of neglect. Major headlines such as "Earth as Good as New Again" and "No More Bounds to Consumerism" inspired renewed hope for the masses, as the release of the giant creature was covered live by every news network. The extinction of the coral reefs and large sea mammals was quickly forgotten. At first, the kraken worked quite well, finding radioactive and toxic waste and happily absorbing it. Dr. M. Palomino, as head of the research team responsible for the science behind the project, welcomed the global media attention. Released at about 8 tons and spanning 20 meters, the kraken grew and grew as it absorbed and digested waste material without incident for 10 years. Government audits of the lab logs later revealed that Dr. Palomino had even been able to establish rudimentary communications with the kraken using a low-frequency transmission technique, and thus, motivated by pity, he was able to disable the shock implants originally designed to control the organism with brutal electroshocks. Then, in early 2041, a Japanese destroyer accidentally rammed the kraken during a maneuver and sank. Suddenly, economic and military tensions erupted between Japan, China, and the United States. Tokyo High Command investigated the incident and concluded that the kraken was being used as a secret weapon made by Canada and the United States. Their response was swift and decisive. As the half-sentient creature was surfacing, Japan attacked the kraken with multiple underwater weapons, including nuclear torpedoes. The kraken instinctively tried to flee these attacks, even leaving the water completely, in the process wiping out San Miguel Island on the U.S. West Coast. In retaliation, the United States military fired submarine-launched tactical nuclear missiles intent on stopping the kraken before it could cause even more damage. When the mushroom clouds dissipated, all indications were clear. The mutilated mass of organic tissue clumped together with partially digested nuclear waste and toxins, ingested after years of sea cleaning, was dead. However, appearances can be deceiving. Near the McGrath State Beach, the kraken started crawling through flames and smoke back towards the ocean. As it sank to the bottom of the Pacific, it disappeared from all radar. In hindsight, it was likely that the kraken regenerated through radiation-caused mutations, which enhanced his strong regenerative abilities. Hidden away within the great depths of the sea, avoiding all surface vessels and submarines, he fully healed from his wounds and slowly grew even bigger and stronger. Then, on August 14th of 2041, strange gravity wave patterns were detected within the solar system at the Netherlands Gravity Detection Facility. 3 months later, satellite imagery located the kraken submerged nearby the Galapagos Islands. Greatly alarmed, several nations launched another salvo of nuclear missiles against the kraken. The rash attacks were made while several other large countries' ships were too close to the detonation zones. Those ships were destroyed. Thus, the Third World War began, a conflict between the major attacking powers and their allies on one side, and the countries who had suffered from the hasty attacks and their allies on the other. The war quickly destroyed most productive arable lands around the world, contaminating the land and water with radiation and causing even more dramatic changes to the Earth's already decimated climate. In September of 2042, the Kraken headed to land again near the equator and slithered into the only space elevator station on Earth, even though it was still under construction. At this time, Earth's space elevator was primarily a 100,000-kilometer-long braided nanocarbon cable extending straight up into the sky, combined with over 1,000 tons of spaceborne counterweight, set in space consisting of near-empty rocket stages and a small station used to lift the primary cable. The cable itself was visible from miles away due to its large diameter of over 2 meters. Its material density was air-like as it used vacuum chambers, never exceeding a few nanometers anywhere in its structure. Buoyed by the counterweight at one end and anchored by the Earth at the other, the cable stretched weightless through the atmosphere. The project plan was to lift heavy modules for international space mining and discovery programs, but the worldwide situation delayed everything. Fortunately, its global importance kept it neutral and unharmed by conflicts flaring around the world. The Kraken bypassed the energy beam station, the first components of the still under construction elevator, upon which it was anchored without damaging it. It immediately began to climb, suctioning itself to the exterior surface of the cable with its many tentacles. Observers noted that the Kraken seemed to be carrying a giant tank, apparently taken from an oxygen gas tanker. Independent researchers warned that any weapon discharge, if it were to hit the oxygen tank or the cable, could completely destroy the space elevator. All weapons remained silent as the world watched, horrified with disbelief, the deliberate skyward ascent of the Kraken. At first, the Kraken climbed slowly but surely, yet as gravity decreased with the Kraken's rise, the speed of his ascent increased. After 90 days, the Kraken had passed the geostationary point at 35,786 kilometers, after which he entered a controlled fall into space by relaxing his hold on the cable. This process took another 25 days. All available telescopes and broadcasting equipment remained locked on the Kraken as he reached the counterweight at the end of the orbital lift. Scientists noted that it seemed as though the Kraken was waiting for something. Then, as though recognizing a precisely calculated window of opportunity, the Kraken suddenly released itself into space. Floating through the void while still tightly holding the gigantic oxygen tank, the Kraken's body did not freeze because of its giant size and internal cellular activity. However, it was impossible to determine whether the Kraken was still alive. As the whole world watched, the Kraken's trajectory was altered slightly by what must have been an invisible source, as no one detected any rocket engine, jet propulsion, gas, or fluid ejection. It appeared that the Kraken was slowly being pulled into a dark sector of near-Earth space. Later investigation discovered that the source of the gravity anomaly was a wormhole there. Finally, the creature, now to be forever known as the Space Kraken, disappeared with a tiny flash of light. No research team has ever come up with a plausible hypothesis to explain how the Space Kraken was able to either discern or create a wormhole, and no generator or power source connected with this occurrence was ever found. Throughout this event, the Earth's biosphere continued its collapse from accumulated contamination and nuclear fallout. Many nations used their last resources to build settler spaceships to evacuate as many humans as possible into space, before the disintegration of the economy and resulting riots made organized life on Earth impossible. The orbital lift itself was destroyed days before its first scheduled test, after the huge primary stage of a colony ship malfunctioned and re-entered Earth's orbit, its debris tragically colliding with the cable of the space elevator. The counterweight was cut off and flew away into space, leaving the cable to float and wave like a flag in the atmosphere. The cable didn't cause any destruction, as scientists had repeatedly affirmed. It did, however, shatter the dream of ever climbing easily into space. The doomed colony ship never touched Earth, exploding into a fireworks display of 1,000 falling stars glowing in the night. Some of the remaining military organizations decided to pursue and hunt down the space kraken wherever he might be, to avenge the Earth's destruction. Meanwhile, individual small groups of survivors with their own locally built or stolen ships left the planet seeking a new place to live in space. Several spaceships headed directly towards the wormhole, which remained invisible apart from its detectable effects. They disappeared without being seen or heard from again. Other ships were unwilling to risk the wormhole, considering the consequences of interstellar travel, including prolonged deep sleep and many other possibly fatal complications. These groups did, however, reach the outer regions of our solar system and abruptly stopped sending any human-made transmissions. Only a few live streams at that moment showed they died in a horrific way. After losing important time, the other colony ships and scientists on Earth discovered what became known as the Death Sphere, an invisible and non-detectable bubble wrapped around the Sun even bigger than the Kuiper Belt. The Death Sphere acted as a deadly boundary for all living cells. Living creatures transformed into horrifying melted masses of biological matter upon contact. Scientists remained completely unable to detect the source or essential nature of this strange radiation, let alone any possible causes. Electrical devices such as drones and even entire spaceships were able to pass through the boundary unharmed without even detecting the slightest anomaly. Organic material could not. The only way to detect the sphere's location was to send small test animals in remotely piloted drones into that region of space and observe the position at which the animals were lethally affected. That was the official story. The truth leaked out gradually after the initial discovery of the Death Sphere. Many colony ships had already reached the point of no return, too late to reverse their course or even stop momentum before fatally impacting the Death Sphere. In desperation, they quickly devised a plan to launch their cargo drones, manned with living passengers in a single deep sleep chamber. Their hope was some would find a clear passage through the barrier. Regrettably, all these cargo passengers died. Only a few were able to make emergency turns before coming into contact with the sphere. Some of these ships managed to reach the wormhole, while others missed it. Lacking sufficient fuel for a second pass, they were left to drift helplessly through space. In the end, all contact with the Death Sphere served to confirm its impenetrability and perfect spherical shape. Humankind ceased searching for passages through it due to the lack of resources. All surviving ships chose to follow the Kraken's path through the wormhole, entering a one-way trip into the unknown. Now, these survivors find themselves lost in space, countless light years away from Earth and facing an unknown part of the universe. You, as a starfarer, will also follow the space Kraken. You may discover a new planet to call home, find new friends, encounter new and deadly enemies, trade as best you can, and build up your ship to an amazing degree of capabilities. With a crew strong enough, you may finally defeat the Kraken, or at least find a pathway to escape this cursed realm of space. But who knows? Maybe this wormhole will drop you right into the core of a sun, millions of light years away. There's only one way to find out. The message from beyond.
You reached the other side of the wormhole. The jump through hyperspace felt like just a few seconds. With no knowledge of what to expect, you are pleased to have not experienced any pain. Emerging from the tunnel, your spaceship continues with the same velocity as when you entered. Your crew immediately begins scanning your position for new stars and any receivable transmissions. Deep space telemetry reveals that all other ships from Earth are long gone. Perhaps they are in hiding somewhere. Perhaps they exited the wormhole at other unknown locations. You are lucky to have emerged from the wormhole into a star system, counting 7 planets around a bright star. All but one has an atmosphere, and you are only a few days' flight away from reaching the first planet. The team is thrilled to be picking up multiple radio transmissions. However, you are only able to decode one audio message. You take note of its contents, knowing that the time has come for you and your crew to find your own path. This is Adam, with a warning to everyone who may become stranded here. Do not answer this transmission. I repeat, do not answer this transmission. Keep a low profile. I strongly recommend that you hide, adapt, and always keep moving. They caught me after a few days. Now I'm on the run. Understand this, during the jump, time does not follow rational rules. You may end up being years behind another ship, which jumped just before yours. Don't wait for your escort ships. My friend Maximilian jumped only an hour in front of me, but his life support system malfunctioned, and his spaceship leaked oxygen after being hit by space debris. I could only watch him disappear into the wormhole with a flash. At that point, I jumped, and everything around me was lost. In the midst of cold and pain, I nearly lost my oxygen supply. I was hoping that Max's ship had made the jump while I struggled to remain conscious. Then suddenly, I was there, in the midst of nothingness, slowly drifting towards his spaceship, which was the only thing I could see. The airlocks were open. The ship's internal pressure had completely escaped. I found Max in his command chair on the bridge, pulled him out, hugged him, tried to warm him, and imagined he would open his eyes again. The vacuum of space froze him solid, as if he had been floating here for weeks. I grieved for days, and all I could do was desperately search for a message from him. I found the ship's autolog, which indicates that the ship arrived here 19 days ago, and the captain immediately lost consciousness as the last bit of atmosphere escaped. After that, his last life signs faded out, and the ship simply floated in standby mode through space. They're coming. I have to keep moving. Please. They're so damn fast. Keep moving and keep this frequency open. Adam.